The day my son told me I was overreacting. I was standing in my own kitchen, in my own house, holding a coffee mug that his wife had already packed into a box labeled "Donate." I didn't say a word. I just set the mug down on the counter, the one she hadn't gotten to yet, and walked to my bedroom and closed the door. That was the moment I knew. My name is Cecelia Pruitt, and I am 63 years old. I raised 2 children in a pale yellow house on Birchwood Lane in Greensboro, North Carolina. I planted the rosebushes out front myself. The summer after my husband Raymond passed, I repainted the kitchen twice. I know every creak in every floorboard. I know that the back door sticks in August because of the humidity, and you have to lift the handle just so. I know this house the way I know my own hands. For 31 years, this was my home. Then my son Elliot moved in, and slowly, quietly, it stopped feeling like it. I want to be fair. I want to tell this right. Elliot is my younger child. He has Raymond's eyes and Raymond's stubbornness and, God help me, Raymond's way of making you feel like you are the unreasonable one in any given situation. I love my son. I loved him the moment they put him in my arms in that delivery room, and I will love him until I take my last breath. But love doesn't mean you have to disappear inside of it. When Elliot called me in February of last year, his voice had that particular quality it gets when something has gone wrong, and he doesn't want to admit it right away. He talked about the weather for a full 2 minutes, asked how my knee was doing, asked if I'd watched the game, and then, finally, Mom, Jess and I are going through something. We need a place to land for a little while. Would it be okay if we stayed with you? Just until we get back on our feet. I asked what a little while meant. 3 months, he said. Maybe 4. I said yes. Of course I said yes. What mother wouldn't? Jessica, Elliot's wife, is a perfectly capable woman who has always kept her thoughts about me at a polite, careful distance. We are cordial. We remember each other's birthdays. But in the 15 years she and Elliot have been together, I don't think she has ever once looked at me and seen a full person. She sees Elliot's mother, a background figure, someone who exists to be useful and then steps aside. They arrived on a Saturday with a rented moving truck, 3 carloads of boxes, and a French bulldog named Biscuit, who immediately urinated on my hallway runner. I told myself it would be fine. The first 2 weeks were fine, more or less. Elliot helped me fix the gutter that had been pulling away from the fascia board since October. Jessica brought home groceries once without being asked. We ate dinner together a few nights, and it almost felt like family. Almost. But then the changes started. Small ones at first. The kind you can almost convince yourself you imagined. The good throw blanket disappeared from the living room couch and turned up in the guest room. The reading lamp I kept by my armchair, the one I'd had for 20 years, the one with the warm amber bulb, got switched out for a bright white one that gave me a headache. I found it in the garage, wrapped in newspaper, sitting on top of a bag of extension cords. I mentioned the lamp. Elliot said, Jessica thought it made the room look dim. He said it with an apologetic half-shrug, like he was relaying information from a meeting he had no part in. It's my living room, I said. I know, Mom, but we're living here too. Can't we just make it work? I let it go. That was my first mistake. Not the lamp, but the letting go. Every time I let something go, it made the next thing easier for them to take. By April, Jessica had rearranged the kitchen cabinets. She said she'd done it to make more functional use of the space. My pots were now on the top shelf. I can't reach without the step stool. My everyday dishes were in the cabinet beside the stove, which gets warm when the oven runs, and I've always worried about that. My mother's china. The blue and white Wedgwood I inherited after she passed, the pieces I have never once put in a dishwasher, were moved to the bottom cabinet, stacked without tissue paper between them. When I found them like that, I stood there for a full minute before I could speak. Jessica, I said, when she came into the kitchen, those belong to my mother. I know, she said. They're really pretty. I just didn't know where else to put them. We needed that cabinet for our stuff. Their stuff, in my house. Elliot came home from work that evening and I told him what had happened. He looked at the cabinet, looked at me, and said the thing he always says when he doesn't know what else to say. Let's all just try to get along, okay, Mom? This is hard for everyone. Hard for everyone. I thought about that phrase for a long time after he said it. In May, my daughter Beverly called from Phoenix. Beverly is my older child. Sharper than Elliot, quicker to name what she sees. She called to check in, like she does every Sunday, and I tried to sound normal. I tried to answer her questions about the garden and the neighbor's new fence and the weather. But Beverly knows me. She's known me for 40 years. "Mom," she said. "What's wrong?" I told her about the lamp, the china, the way Jessica had taken over the kitchen, the way Elliot stood between us, not protecting me, just managing, keeping everything from boiling over, which is not the same thing as fixing anything. Beverly was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "Mom, how long are they staying?" "They said 3 months. It's been 4, she said. I hadn't counted. I suppose I hadn't wanted to. That was the conversation that woke something up in me. I'm not sure what to call it. Resolve, maybe. Or just clarity. The kind that comes when you finally stop arguing with what you already know. I started paying attention differently after that. I noticed how Elliot referred to the house in conversation, not as my mom's place or mom's house, but as our place. I noticed how Jessica had stopped asking before she made changes. She'd moved the patio furniture, taken down the wind chimes Raymond gave me for our anniversary, the ones with the copper tubes that ring low and clear on a summer evening. When I asked where they were, she said she'd put them in the storage closet because Biscuit got worked up by the sound. Raymond's wind chimes in the storage closet because of a French bulldog. I went out to the storage closet that evening and sat on the concrete step and held those wind chimes in my lap, and I talked to Raymond for a little while. I do that sometimes. I know he can't answer, but it helps me find what I'm actually thinking when I say it out loud to someone who isn't there to talk me out of it. What I said was, "I don't know how I got here, and I don't think I can keep pretending this is okay." I made 2 phone calls the following Monday morning, while Elliot was at work and Jessica was at her yoga class. The first was to my friend Ruth Ann Cleary, who had mentioned to me back in January that she had a guest house behind her place in Asheville that she wasn't using. Ruth Ann lost her husband 4 years before I lost Raymond, and we have been the kind of friends ever since that only grief can make. The kind who understand things without needing them explained. I asked if the guest house was still available. She told me she'd been hoping I'd ask. The second call was to a moving company. I got a quote, gave them a date, and put down a deposit. I sat at my kitchen table after those calls. My kitchen table, the one Raymond and I bought at an estate sale in 1998. The one with the water ring I always meant to refinish and then decided I liked. And I felt something I hadn't felt in months. Not happiness exactly, steadiness. Like the floor had stopped shifting. I didn't tell Elliot right away. I needed time to get things organized. And if I'm honest, I also needed to see how long it would take him to notice that something had changed. That I had changed. It took him 2 weeks to notice. And he only noticed because I stopped making dinner. Not dramatically, not as a statement. I just stopped doing it one Tuesday and didn't start again. There was food in the house. They were capable adults. But Elliot appeared in the kitchen that Tuesday evening looking genuinely bewildered, like a man who has opened a drawer where scissors have always been and found it empty. "Mom, are you making anything tonight?" "Not tonight," I said. He waited. I didn't elaborate. He made a sandwich. The next Sunday, Beverly flew in from Phoenix. She told them she was coming to visit me. She didn't tell them why, and neither did I. She sat at my kitchen table on Saturday evening, after Elliot and Jessica had gone out, and I told her everything. The calls, the deposit, the guest house, Ruth Ann, all of it. Beverly looked at me for a long moment. Then she reached across the table and put her hand over mine. "Good," she said. "It's your house, Mom. It's your life." She helped me go through the rooms and decide what I was taking. Most of my things. The Wedgwood china wrapped carefully, Raymond's wind chimes, the amber reading lamp, the kitchen table. The photographs from the hallway wall, 30 years of Christmases and beach trips, and the kids' school plays. I took the rosebush clippings. Beverly had rooted in cups of water because Ruth Ann said I could plant them at the guest house. I left the furniture that came with the house. The beds in the guest room, the sectional sofa we'd bought when Elliot was in high school. I left the patio furniture, though I almost didn't. I left them the kitchen cabinets, rearranged the way Jessica wanted them. What I did not leave was any part of me that I had finally gotten back. I told Elliot on a Wednesday evening. He and Jessica were eating dinner, takeout Thai food, cartons spread across my kitchen table, and I sat down across from him and waited until he looked at me. "I need to talk to you," I said. "I'm moving out." Jessica looked up from her container of pad thai. Elliot put down his fork. "What do you mean you're moving out? This is your house." "I know," I said, "and I've decided I'd rather live in Asheville, near Ruth Ann. I've already arranged it. The movers are coming Saturday." There was a silence. Then Elliot laughed. Not a mean laugh, more the laugh of someone who has been presented with information that does not yet compute. "Mom," he said, "you're not serious." "I'm completely serious. You can't just—" He stopped. Started again. "Where is this coming from? Is this because of the lamp? Is this Beverly putting ideas in your head?" "This is me," I said. "This is coming from me." Jessica had gone very still. I noticed that. She was watching Elliot instead of me, waiting to see which way the wind was blowing. "Mom, you don't have to leave your own house," Elliot said. "If something's been bothering you, we can talk about it. We can work it out." I looked at him, really looked at him, the way you look at someone you love who has also disappointed you. "Elliot," I said, "I have been trying to talk about it for months. Every time I mentioned something that was bothering me, you told me to try harder to get along. You told me it was hard for everyone. But it wasn't hard for everyone equally, and we both know that." He didn't say anything. "I am not leaving because I don't love you," I said. "I'm leaving because I don't recognize my own home anymore. And I've realized that I'd rather start over somewhere new than keep trying to find myself in a house where I've become invisible." Jessica put down her fork. "The movers," I said, "are coming Saturday at 8 o'clock. I'll make sure to be moved out before noon, so you'll have plenty of time to figure out your next steps." I got up from the table and went to my room. I heard them talking for a long time after that, low voices through the wall, words I couldn't make out. I didn't try to. I lay on my bed with my book and my amber lamp, which I had moved back to my nightstand, and I read until I fell asleep. Thursday, Elliot knocked on my bedroom door. "Come in," I said. He sat on the edge of the bed the way he used to when he was a little boy, and something had gone wrong at school. He has always had that quality, the ability to look, in his worst moments, exactly like the 8-year-old I used to tuck in at night. It is not a manipulation, it's just him. It has always broken my heart a little. "Mom," he said, "I don't want you to go." "I know," I said. "Tell me what to do. I'll fix it." "There isn't a thing to fix right now, Elliot. That's what I'm trying to tell you. I'm not leaving because I'm angry. I'm leaving because I need to live my own life. And you and Jessica need to live yours, without me right here to fall back on." He was quiet for a minute. "Where will you go? The guest house?" "Yes. Ruth Ann has been my friend for 20 years. It'll be good." "And the house?" "The house is yours," I said. "I'll sign whatever needs to be signed. I've already talked to a real estate attorney. You and Jessica can buy me out, or we can list it, or you can rent it for a while. We'll work it out. But I'm not going to keep living somewhere I feel like a guest." He put his face in his hands. Not dramatically, just the way a person does when they're genuinely overwhelmed and don't have a performance ready. After a moment he looked up. "I should have done better," he said. "I should have paid more attention." "Yes," I said. "You should have." I said it gently, because I meant it gently. This wasn't the moment for anger. Anger had burned off months ago, somewhere around the time I found my mother's china stacked on the bare cabinet shelf. What was left was something quieter, something that felt more like truth than bitterness. "We'll talk more," I said. "After I'm settled. I promise." He nodded. He didn't look good, but he looked real. Which is more than I could say for most of the conversations we'd had in the past several months. Saturday morning, the movers arrived at 8 o'clock. 2 men named Cody and Phil, cheerful and efficient, who wrapped my things in moving blankets and carried them out through the front door with more care than I expected. Beverly was there. She had stayed through Friday night and stood in the driveway with a coffee cup, directing traffic in the gentle, confident way she does everything. Elliot had gone to stay at his friend Marcus's apartment for the weekend. We'd agreed it would be easier that way. Jessica sat on the porch steps with Biscuit in her lap, watching the truck fill up. At one point, she called out to me, "Cecelia." I turned. She looked at me for a moment, really looked, the way she hadn't in over a year. "I'm sorry," she said. "I didn't realize." A pause. "Or maybe I didn't try to." I nodded. I believed the second part more than the first. But she said it, and I heard it. And sometimes that's where things begin. "Take care of the rose bushes," I said. "They need to be watered deeply, not often. Once a week is enough." She nodded. She looked like she might cry. I didn't linger. By noon, the truck was loaded. Beverly drove behind me as we pulled out of Birchwood Lane for the last time. Me in my Subaru, with a bag of rosebush clippings in a paper grocery sack on the passenger seat. Raymond's wind chimes wrapped in a flannel shirt in the back. I watched the yellow house get smaller in my rearview mirror. The rosebushes were blooming. I had planted them in grief, tended them through loneliness, watched them come back every spring without being asked to. I didn't know if Jessica would remember to water them. I didn't know if the new version of that house, their version, would take care of them the way I had. But I knew this. I had taken my clippings. I had taken my mother's china. I had taken the wind chimes, and the amber lamp, and the kitchen table with the water ring, and the photographs of every Christmas and beach trip and school play. I had taken myself. The guest house in Asheville is small. 1 bedroom, a galley kitchen, a porch that faces east so I get the morning light. Ruth Ann brought over tomato plants the day I arrived. And we spent 2 hours in the yard with our hands in the dirt, talking about nothing important. And I realized that I had not felt that unclenched in a very long time. I planted the rosebush clippings along the south side of the porch. Ruth Ann says they might not take, that clippings are unpredictable. Maybe so. But they came from something that survived once already, something I grew in the hardest years of my life. I'm choosing to trust that. Elliot calls every Sunday now. It took 3 weeks after I left before those calls started feeling real again. Before he stopped apologizing in circles and started just talking to me. We still have a lot to work through. I know that. Some things you can't fast forward. But last Sunday he called, and we talked for 45 minutes about Raymond, which we almost never do. About what Raymond would have said about all of this. About how Raymond had a way of making people feel heard without always agreeing with them. We laughed once. It was good. I hung up the phone and went out to the porch and sat in the evening quiet with a cup of tea. The wind chimes were hanging from the eave above me, Raymond's copper tubes catching whatever breeze came off the mountain. They rang low and clear, the way they always have, the way they always will. I am 63 years old. I have gray at my temples, that I stopped dyeing 2 years ago because Raymond always said he liked it. I have a porch that faces east and tomato plants. I didn't put there myself and a friend who knew to bring them anyway. I have my mother's china, wrapped safely. I have my life back. And that, as it turns out, was all I ever needed to take with me.